Kenya, we got a problem. Remember when everyone was excited about young people in politics? We were going to vote for change, we were going to hold leaders accountable? Yeah, about that. Not so much anymore. Gen Z, the generation born after 1996, makes up a huge chunk of Kenya's population. That's a lot of potential voters. For a minute, it felt like things were different. Young people were fired up about elections. They were using social media to organize and speak out. News articles were filled with headlines about the youthquake that was going to shake things up. Politicians even tried to act like they cared about what young people thought. Remember that time a presidential candidate wore a backwards cap and pretended to know how to dab? Cringeworthy, but you get the point. Thing is, that energy seems to be fading faster than my attention span during a boring lecture. Voter turnout among young people was down in the last election. The streets aren't exactly filled with young people demanding change these days. So, what happened? Where did all the passion go? Buckle up, my friend, because we're about to dive into the reasons why Kenya's Gen Z is losing its political steam. Let's rewind for a second. Remember the 2017 elections? Remember how everyone was talking about the power of the youth vote? Young people were registering to vote in record numbers. Social media was buzzing with political debates. It felt like Gen Z was finally finding its voice and flexing its political muscle. For a brief shining moment, it seemed like Kenya was on the verge of a political revolution led by young people. Politicians were making all sorts of promises to woo the youth vote. They vowed to tackle youth unemployment, improve education, and fight corruption. Some even tried to appeal to young people by using slang and referencing pop culture. But here's the thing about promises. They're a lot easier to make than to keep. After the election hype died down, reality set in. The same old problems persisted. Youth unemployment remained stubbornly high. Corruption scandals continued to rock the government, and the politicians who had promised the world to young people, well, they went back to their old ways. Let's be real. Navigating the Kenyan political landscape is like trying to walk a straight line after spinning around 10 times. It's messy, it's confusing, and it's enough to make you want to lie down and take a nap. For young people who are already disillusioned with the status quo, it's even worse. They look at the way politics is done in Kenya, and they see a system that's rigged against them. A 2023 study by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics found that over 70% of young people believe that the political system is corrupt and doesn't represent their interests. That's a pretty damning indictment. When young people feel like their voices don't matter, they're less likely to engage in the political process. It's like trying to get a toddler excited about eating broccoli. They know it's good for them, but they'd rather have cookies. And it's not just about corruption. The Kenyan political system is also incredibly complex. Navigating the world of political parties, coalitions, and electoral laws can be overwhelming for even the most seasoned political junkie. For young people who are just starting to engage with politics, it can feel like trying to understand a foreign language. Section 4. Where did all the young people go? So, the system is rigged, politics is confusing, and young people are disillusioned. But that's not the whole story. There are other factors at play here too. One of the biggest challenges facing youth political movements is sustaining momentum. Remember all that energy during the elections? Yeah, that's not exactly easy to maintain when you're trying to juggle school, work, relationships, and the general chaos of being a young person. Let's be honest, staying politically active takes time and effort. It means attending rallies, organizing protests, and engaging in debates online and offline. It's a lot easier to just scroll through TikTok or catch up on the latest Netflix series. And who can blame young people for choosing instant gratification over the long, hard slog of political change? Speaking out against the government or powerful individuals can have serious consequences. From intimidation and harassment to arrests and violence, the price of dissent can be high. It's no wonder that some young people choose to stay silent rather than risk their safety and well-being. Section 5. The kids are not all right. So what does all of this mean for the future of Kenyan politics? Well, it's not exactly a pretty picture. If young people continue to disengage from the political process, it's going to have serious consequences for the country's democracy. When a large segment of the population feels like their voices aren't being heard, it creates a breeding ground for apathy, cynicism, and even extremism. A 2022 report by the Institute for Security Studies warned that the growing disillusionment among Kenyan youth poses a significant threat to the country's stability. The report argued that unless young people feel included and empowered, they are more likely to become vulnerable to manipulation by political entrepreneurs who offer simplistic solutions to complex problems. And let's not forget about the impact on policymaking. When young people aren't engaged in politics, their needs and concerns are less likely to be addressed. Issues like youth unemployment, access to education, and affordable healthcare are often sidelined in favor of priorities that benefit older generations. This creates a vicious cycle where young people feel even more alienated from the political system, leading to further disengagement.